The 2020 season had a bunch of crazy storylines that made it one of the most interesting seasons in college football history, and one that'll go up there with 2007 in terms of the most memorable in our lifetimes. Everybody remembers the Mormons versus Mullets, and how BYU and Coastal Carolina came out of nowhere, and we also remember how many players had to sit out, how the different conferences had crazy schedules, and how all the normal rules of college football were sort of just flipped on their head. That made for some interesting games when certain players had to sit out, and it also made for one of the most interesting storylines in college football history when Vanderbilt had a woman kick for their football team for a couple of weeks. Yeah, that was Sarah Fuller. Yeah, this was the Vanderbilt kicker that won Special Teams Player of the Week for kicking the ball out of bounds. That's the player we're talking about today, and in today's feature we're going to go back in time and talk about how Sarah Fuller rose to fame, her time as a kicker for the Commodores, and what ultimately happened and where she is now. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about what happened to Sarah Fuller. Also, I apologize in advance, there is no footage from her soccer career, so you're just going to have to get the same old couple of pictures for the first couple minutes of the video. Sarah Fuller was born in Wiley, Texas in 1999 to a family of really tall athletes. Her dad and grandparents were all over 6 feet tall, and her mom was just under 6 feet tall, so it made sense that she'd also be pretty tall as well. Ever since she was little, she had a lot of interest in playing sports, and she tried to play basketball and golf to try and take advantage of how much taller she was than everybody else in her class, but she'd always gravitate towards sports where she could actually kick. After dominating at playground kickball, she thought she could be a good soccer player, and a lot of the leagues she could play in were both indoors and featured boys and girls. She said, quote, "I tried golf at one point, but that didn't work out because I was too noisy and loud, and clearly I stuck with a sport where I could yell about people." Over time, she quickly became a very talented soccer player, especially for Wiley High School and her club team. Sarah started out on attack, which is one of the positions in soccer that tries to score a goal, but was moved to goalie in high school. She said, quote, "It wasn't my favorite position, but I said I'd do it." And she had a very bright future ahead of her at the position, since her prep for that position would end up preparing her to become a football kicker down the line. Aside from attending practices and matches with Wiley every day throughout the school week, Sarah also split time with her specialized kicking coaches and her club soccer team to develop even further as an athlete. Most of what was emphasized was using her frame to develop better leg strength and accuracy on long kicks, since that was most of what she'd be doing as a goalie other than blocking shots from the opposing team. This would also mean increasing her accuracy to the point where she was hitting targets on the field from 60 yards out. Sometimes the football coach for Wiley would come out and watch her kick and ask her to kick for the high school team, but she decided to focus on soccer. She ended up being a 2-year starter at goalie for her team in Wiley and won the 2017 District 6A Goalkeeper of the Year award before signing a scholarship at Vanderbilt to play goalkeeper for them. Unfortunately for her though, her soccer career was almost immediately defined by how she couldn't play. Before her freshman year at Vandy, she broke her foot and had to sit out the entirety of her first year of college in 2017. She wasn't able to practice at all because of her injury and spent most of her time just watching her teammates practice. When she was finally able to play again her sophomore year, she got hurt again, slipping a disc in her back because of the constant diving needed to play goalkeeper at the college level. She ended up missing a whole year again, and the recovery for a slipped disc was even longer than a broken foot. So she hardly got to play for Vanderbilt before the pandemic started in early 2020, causing the team to cancel several matches. She was already lacking in playing time because some of her backups had gotten so much time in front of her that they were basically starters now. To add to that, she had a stress fracture in her foot and would fail a physical before the 2020 team started. According to her, she battled depression all throughout her career at Vanderbilt because of all this and all of those injuries. Despite that, she stuck with the team through practices and passed her second physical so she could end up playing. She took back over as a starter 4 matches into the season and was the starter the rest of the way throughout the SEC championship game where Vanderbilt won over Arkansas. It was after her senior season that football started to become a possibility. In the spring before, Vanderbilt practice was getting boring one day, so the assistant soccer coach took Sarah and another goalkeeper inside the indoor training facility to kick some field goals for fun. Sarah ended up making a 45-yard field goal, so when she was approached by Coach Mason and the Vanderbilt football team to be the kicker for them after they lost theirs, she decided to accept, and that's where the legend of Sarah Fuller in college football begins. But first, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, MyBookie. Convicted as I am about a certain bet, be sure to place your bet with MyBookie. This season, MyBookie is pulling out all the stops with incredible promotions like a weekly risk-free boost on Thursdays where you can bet without a sweat. If your bet hits, you win big. If it doesn't, forget it. MyBookie will refund your wager. But that's just the beginning. MyBookie is giving away hundreds of thousands in prizes with their Super, Survivor, and Square contests. Get your entries now in for your shot at huge cash rewards. When you're ready to get started, be sure to use my promo code Fisher50 and make sure to get some extra cash on top of your first deposit. If you type in Fisher50, you'll get up to $1,000 in a welcome bonus bet plus a $10 casino chip. MyBookie's tiered bonuses make it easy to deposit with crypto or with credit, and the bigger your deposit, the bigger your bonus. The bonus would be 100% match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. With MyBookie, you can bet on anything, anywhere, at any time, and make your season a winning season. Be sure to check out my link down below and use my promo code Fisher50. So yeah, going into 2020, Vanderbilt wasn't exactly doing that great. One of their kickers opted out of the 2020 season, and instead of deciding to play, they would end up being short. They were 0-7 going into their game against the Missouri Tigers, and early that week, the rest of their kickers had tested positive and were not able to play. The soccer season had just ended earlier that month, so Sarah didn't have to worry about practicing for both soccer and football at the same time. In fact, she hardly practiced at all with the football team, but since she was a last-minute addition to the team, she became the only kicker to travel with the Commodores to Columbia. Before the game, she said, quote, "I think it's amazing and incredible, but I'm also trying to separate that because I know this is a job I need to do, and I want to help the team out, and I want to do the best that I can. Placing that historical aspect aside just helps me focus in on what I need to do. I don't want to let them down in any way, and it's an honor they called me to be able to do this and help them out." So how did she end up doing? Well, Vanderbilt got blasted in the game and lost to Missouri 41-0, falling to 0-8. That meant that Sarah only got one snap in the entire game, which came in a kickoff, and did not have an opportunity for an extra point or any field goals. According to multiple sources, she even gave a halftime speech to the team, and Mizzou head coach Elia Drinkwitz said, quote, "For her to have the courage to come out and be a part of a football team, that is going to be a barrier broken." After the game, Vanderbilt head coach Derek Mason would be fired, as over his 7 years at Vanderbilt, he went 27-55. In his statement after being fired, he said he was thankful for having coached thousands of young men and one courageous woman. Since Sarah didn't have any social media while she was playing, she only knew what people were saying about her online because her boyfriend would tell her apparently. She was named the SEC Co-Special Teams Player of the Week for being the first woman to ever suit up and play in a Power 5 football game. The best part about it is she literally kicked the ball out of bounds, and some like to claim it was a squib kick, but it was clearly not a squib kick. She literally just was not any good at kicking the ball and hit the ball out of bounds. As I said, that was such a difficult kick to pull off that she was named the Special Teams Player of the Week as her team went 0-8 and didn't even score, and this definitely riled up a lot of people. Interim head coach Todd Fitch said, quote, "If she's our best option, we'll continue with her, and we'll do what's best for the team." It turns out she was. She actually kicked 2 extra points to finish the year, while another kicker handed long-range kicks. Vanderbilt lost and finished the year at 0-9, but Sarah's game jersey was sent to the College Football Hall of Fame. Sarah wasn't actually the first woman to play college football, and she isn't even the first to kick at the FBS level. Katie Nita kicked for the New Mexico Lobos in 2002, and Kent State had a kicker named April Goss score an extra point in 2012. Keena was originally a kicker for Colorado in 1999, but left the team after being assaulted by some of the players and scored a few extra points for the Lobos. Goss was on the football team at Kent State for 4 years and only took 1 snap. Sarah was the most visible female kicker of all time, and she played at the Power 5 SEC level. So what happened to Sarah Fuller after the 2020 season? Well, to be honest, not that much. She ended up grad transferring to North Texas to be closer to family and to get a master's degree in hospital management, but decided to stick to soccer instead of football. She finished the year at 5 saves, and it was her only year of college sports where she played every game that season. All in all, she ended up having a way bigger impact on college sports by scoring 2 extra points than she ever did being a starting goalie for 2 different programs. She didn't get signed to play for the women's national soccer team, but she was the first ever signing by a smaller expansion club known as the Minnesota Aurora FC. She ended up having a pretty solid season, allowing 8 goals in 13 games, helping lead Aurora FC to the league championship game where they lost 1-2 in extra time. But after the season, she retired from soccer entirely, and in a retirement post, she said, quote, "Soccer gave me more than I could have ever asked for, and I'm grateful for the successes and the failures, the people I've met, and the opportunities the beautiful game has granted me." Apparently, she's been out of sports ever since, but a lot of people remember her instead as the kicker who made a few extra points. Many will say she did not deserve the award she got, and I 100% agree, and it sort of shows the bias that was going around at the time. In my opinion, it was a complete insult to a Player of the Week awards, because aren't you supposed to actually do something to win that award? It almost felt like it was a little bit of a kick in the face, too. They awarded her for having a terrible mistake on a kickoff, whereas maybe if she would have made some sort of field goal or an extra point, I could see the angle, but to give someone the Special Teams Player of the Week award for a mistake, that just felt kind of sad. But yeah, Sarah Fuller took over the college football world for a couple of weeks, and everybody was talking about her, and today we talked about who she was, that time period, and what ended up happening to her. But what do you guys think? What do you think of the whole Sarah Fuller experiment? What were your thoughts at the time? And what other crazy topics should I cover in my next video? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.